everybody. This is Sheila with Designs by Baby Moon. And I think you might actually be able to see me, except I can't see. So hang on just a minute. I want to see if you can see what I'm seeing here. And in order to do that, I got to do it says that. Where's my phone? It says that you can see what I can see. So I'm going to just keep talking until somebody tells me otherwise. If this is not what you can see, then I'm going to need somebody that lives in my house to come tell me that this is not what you can see. So, okay, we're in Stitch Artist here. I've got the Designs by Baby Moon freestanding lace Texas earrings up on my screen in Stitch Artist. Let's make this big so we can see the whole thing. And I'm just going to keep talking and show you this. And if this works out, that's great. And if not, I can't see comments. I can't see anything because of the way Facebook allowed me to share my screen and not anything else. So I'm talking to myself right here, but maybe you're here too. So Robin, Linda, Vicky, if you're here, Tammy, hi again. And what I wanted to show you today was how to take this little heart off here and maybe add a football, or maybe you want to add something completely else. In a new tab, I've got Tennessee drawn out as an earring. I've got some adjustments to make it so tiny. It's so cute. So I got to make it a little bigger because it can't be that little. But the Texas earrings are here. This is the file as it comes in. And I'm looking at the file and I'm like, oh my gosh, why are they so far apart? That's such a waste of space in between there. You could get so many more earrings on it if they weren't that far apart. But it's how they are, and it is what it is at this moment. And sometimes it's harder to change something that's already in set and in process, and hundreds of people have already bought the file, than it is to redo it. Sometimes I do redo it, and I might redo this, but this is for demonstration purposes, and I'm not planning on changing or making an update to this file. But if you have Stitch Artist and you would like to add something different to the earrings that you've already purchased, or you would want to go ahead and edit this file and scoot them a little closer so they're not so far apart like this, because as I'm looking at it right now, that bugs me, and I would not make them like that today. It is what it is, though, and so that's how they are. So let's take this little heart off first, and let's make a little football there instead, because suppose your team is in the, you're celebrating football for your team that's playing, and I'm not a sports person, so I'm going to get all the words wrong, but we're just going to assume that that's what we want to do. We want to make a football. The first thing that I'm going to do in particular is I'm going to work with one Texas shape, because two is too much. And so the way I do that is I'm just going to, draw a little lasso around it. I just use my mouse. I'm on my MacBook with a trackpad, so I'm just selecting, whoops, I got to turn off create. But I'm just going to select this little area and let that stake get caught in it. I may have to turn on essentials here to do the stitch editing. Yep, that's what I'm going to have to do. And I'm going to select one of those states, and I'm going to delete that whole thing. That way it's off the screen, and now I can play with one Texas shape, and I'm going to turn the stitch edit mode off. I'm going to take my one earring, and I'm going to move it to the middle. Utility, center that in the hoop so that I can see it right in the middle. Okay, I've got one Texas dangle here, and we want to replace this little heart with football. So I'm going to simply select that item. I have a, what color, what file? This is a DST file, and I just made my colors orange and navy blue because I have 3 kids at one school here in town that is orange and navy blue. And so that's the colors we're going to use. And I'm going to take my little navy blue heart and delete it. Goodbye. And so now I'm left with the great state of Texas right there. Sorry for all of you non-Texas people. That's just what we call it. I don't know if I haven't lived in another state long enough to know. Like, if you live in, if you live in, I can't even think. It just sounds like it would be so weird. Like, if you live in Arizona, do you say the great state of Arizona? Do you say the great state of California? I don't even know. We say the great state of Texas, and that just sounds really arrogant, but it's what we say. And I don't even know why. And now I'm got something else to worry about. But anyway, let's make a little football. In order to make a little football, I need to turn on the digitizing controls or the create mode in my Embrilliance software. So Embrilliance comes in modules. I have all of the modules. I think I have all the modules. I don't have all of the accessory packs, but I have all the modules because I love them and they're nice. So in order to add something new, like not, and I'm not talking about lettering, and I'm not even talking about merging a design. You can merge designs without actually digitizing. You can combine designs with the essentials part of Embrilliance, so you don't need to digitize. But we're going to make a new shape to add it to this design. We're going to make the shape of a little tiny football to put it on here. If you already have a tiny football and it needs to be tiny, like it's got to fit inside this Texas, which is an inch and a quarter tall, no, an inch and a quarter wide by almost an inch and a half tall, not very big at all. Your football is not going to be a 1 inch football. It's going to be like a quarter-inch size football. So that's what we're going to digitize here. So it's got to be teeny tiny. If you've already got a quarter-inch football, then you don't need digitizing software to merge in a 1/4 inch football shape into this design. You could simply bring it in using the combine designs feature. You would do file, merge stitch file is what you would do. And on this computer, let's just see, we could merge a stitch file. I'd have to import it, and I don't really actually know how to do that on the Mac. uh let's see, in my documents, downloads, I probably have a file I can merge in. So yeah, let's merge in this chicken. Okay, merge that one in. And to merge the design, let's see if it's going to come in. Oh, there it is. So it merged that design on top of this design in the same hoop. So if you wanted that chicken and you wanted to put Texas in it or something, that's how you would do it. You don't need, I didn't need any digitizing modules in order to do that. I'm going to go ahead and delete that because that's too big. It's too big, that chicken. Um, if you're creating a design from scratch, though, or adding something that's completely new that you don't have before, you need to digitize it. So that's what we're doing here. We are digitizing a new element to add into this design. And you can do this either on the design directly, or you can start a new file, which is what I've got, a blank new file over here. And I'm going to digitize it on a blank screen. Now I'm looking at this earring design and I can see, I remember I said I want it to be about a 1/4 inch tall, maybe a little bit more. Got a little bit of space to play with, but not much because Texas is a weird shape. I mean, we're not regular. Like Colorado, it's just a rectangle. Like you could do anything in Colorado because it's basically a rectangle. You could put all kinds of things in there. But Texas, we got to be careful with our shapes that we put in here. Anyway, let's make a little football that we can put in there. I'm thinking of a little football, and a football is kind of like a squished egg, pointy on both ends and round in the middle. So there's several different ways you can do that. I like to just draw with points. So I'm going to think about this little area I have in the middle of my screen. I picked the draw with points tool. This is the one I use most all the time. There are different ways to draw a shape, and because this is the way I think, this is how I draw. This is not the only way to draw. You could draw a circle and you could squish it. You could grab a shape from the objects in the library and adjust it. I'm going to just start drawing it. And I pushed my shift key on my keyboard when I started to move my mouse, and you can see that I've got a plus shape and then I've got a circle with a line through it. That means that the node that I put down only has controls, or it has separate controls on either side of the node. So I'm going to put that down, and that's called a cusp. And then I'm going to let it off, and now you see the node, the circle underneath that plus is open. It doesn't have a line going down the middle of it. Now it's a curved node, And that means that the controls, when you adjust one side of the node on the line, it affects the other side of the line. So I'm going to put one of those down here to kind of make a little top curve of the football shape. Now it looks straight, but it's actually not straight because I'm going to go back down to my line. I'm going to select the shift button and I'm going to put another line in, and this is going to cause my segment of my line here to kind of end with a point, and like I'm drawing a node, but it's going to be so that the line is only affected on one side and not the other. So this is another cusp node. Okay, you can see how that made the line bend. So it affected the whole line as we put more nodes in. Again, I let off the shift key. This is really nerdy stuff, y'all. And I'm going to give it a curved node here. And then I'm going to go back to that original point and I'm going to hit the shift key. Again, you can see how my node changed back to a cusp line, and I'm going to click it. And now I'm going to hit the enter key, and that finishes my drawing. Okay, that's not a perfect thing, but we can adjust everything. And now I'm going to go up to this top button here. This is like a little tomato looking, I call it a tomato. What it really does is it takes any shape that you've drawn and it kind of finishes drawing it for you. So it makes a closed shape rather than an open shape. Now I have two nodes right here. I have that one that I used in start and end, and it joined those for me. So I was talking about nodes. These dots are nodes, and they're places on the line that control what the line is doing. You see, when I click on one of them and highlight that node, I get two handles on either side of the node. These handles are how you control the line that that node is part of. So this one is a curved node, which means when I play with the handles, it affects both sides of the line because those handles aren't, they're acting together. Curved nodes, their handles act together. So when you bend one, it kind of moves the other. And so you can kind of do this all day long. It's kind of fun. Woo, woo, woo. Anyway, it's curved, so it affects both sides of the line. These cusp nodes, the ones with the line down the middle of it, the handles act independently on either side. Okay, I love cusp nodes. They're super fun. So you can make this rounded area pointier. You can kind of give this line an extra curve. So you invert the curve and you have a swoosh instead of just a curve out. They're so fun. I like to use curved nodes when I'm doing a severe change of direction in a line. So this point, I really kind of want it to be kind of pointy because it's football. We want it to be pointy. An American football. Sorry for my friends across the pond or actually anywhere else but America. I'm going to call it a football, and what I really mean is an American football, not a soccer ball. Sorry. So a pigskin football. I'm not a sports person. I keep saying that, and because I'm going to get the things wrong. Anyway, because I used those cusp nodes on either end, you can even see their little lines right here inside the nodes. They are pointy, and each of these I can affect one side of the line and not the other by playing with the handle. But they kind of came in, because of where I put these rounded nodes, they came in okay. Now that's a little bit big, but it looks kind of like a football, and I'm going to show you some things that I'm going to do to it to make it look more like a football. Now I'm thinking about this Texas shape over here, okay? So this Texas shape is not how I do freestanding lace currently right now, but it's what I did before when I was first starting to do it. So let me just show you kind of what it's made up out of. Now, I'm not in the working file that I started digitizing it in originally. This is how you would see it in your software. So if you have this Texas earring file, you have this, the PES or the DST, or you have all those file formats. And so you have a stitch file. You don't have a working file. So that's actually on my other computer, and I didn't access that. I just downloaded, from my storage drive that I have everything on. I just downloaded the file that you have. So this is the same way you would do this as well. If you were starting over with a whole shape, you would draw the state of Texas and you could draw it with points and get a good Texas shape. And then you could apply your own kind of fill and you could apply your own outline. Let me show you what this one's made up of really quick. And we want to turn on the player, which is this stitch simulator button, and that will show you what the Texas shape is actually made out of. So first we have the little loop for the earring top. Okay, you saw some, oh, you want to go all the way in? Let's go all the way in. I'll show you what it's made out of. It's made out of first some running stitches that go back and they go forth, and then they have a zigzag stitch across that and another zigzag stitch, and then they have a satin stitch on top of it, and that's what the freestanding lace satin stitch is made out of at its very basic level. That makes the loop, and that holds all together on your water soluble stabilizer. Okay, then we're gonna have a Texas-ish shape. Okay, this is the shape of Texas, the great state of Texas. Whoops, there's some underlay. Let's get back to it. There's some underlay that is filling the area of Texas with some back and forth stitches to give it a good foundation so that the upper stitches have something to hang on to. And you know, I miss some of those counties. There's a contour stitch that goes all the way around the shape, and now it's going to fill in the state of Texas with a nice fill stitch. This is nice and solid, but this on itself doesn't hold together without an outline. And so what's going to happen next is we've got a series of running stitches and zigzag stitches that, and then the finishing satin stitch that are really going to hold this satin stitch outline, or this little shape of Texas all together. Okay, so those satin stitches are going to do their job and hold it together for us. All right, see how they go all the way around? That's what Texas is made out of. Now, if I was doing this today, those fill stitches back here from when we had all that fill in the middle, let me go back to it so you can see it. I would actually have that as kind of a grid. That part was fine, but this solid fill, I wouldn't necessarily do that. It's not wrong. It's just not what I'm doing lately. So anyway, we're going to leave it there. But I would have that more open, a less dense weave, so to speak, with a little bit, just a different effect. Okay, so now you know what Texas is made out of, but you saw that there were two layers of stitching here. So we have this underlay layer, and then we have this top layer of the fill stitches. When I'm digitizing, I really am thinking about not having many more layers than 4 layers of stitching on top of each other. So you can see I've got this zigzag going around and then a satin stitch on the edge. On the edges, this is pretty solid around the edges. So, you know, when you wash away the stabilizer, you've got a firm little piece of lace. It's not floppy, it's not loose. Even if you use rayon thread, which is generally softer than polyester thread, you don't end up with a very floppy piece. You've got something with some sturdiness, some stability. And I do that on purpose because we don't want our earrings to flop over. We want them to be firm and keep their shape while we're wearing them. I mean, it's in there. I've done this for a reason. It's kind of structural and it's on purpose. Other designers do their freestanding lace differently, and they might want it a little softer, and so they work it differently. But for these things that hang on our ears, I kind of need that structure there. That's why I have that. But let's do a little football here. So let's go back to our football and think about those 2 layers of stitching that we already have in the shape of Texas. Whoops, that's Tennessee. And so on my football, I don't want a lot more stitches than 2 more layers of stitching, because I don't want to put so many stitches in with embroidery that's going to make it hard for my machine to stitch. So I always try to keep it less, 4 layers of stitching or less. If I have more than 4 layers of stitching, I know that my machines are not going to be happy, and my machines have some pretty good motors on them. That's why I have the machines that I have. And so I know that somebody that has a different machine that maybe doesn't have as powerful of a motor, they might hear some things in their machine that, and they're going to get upset because they're going to be like, my machine can't handle it. I don't want that to happen. So I just know that that's the tolerance, and that's 4 solid layers of stitching on top of each other. I like to use as little thread as I can get away with in my designs, so I'm always thinking about those layers. So let's put some stitches on this shape. So it's a football. Let's change the color first so that we can think about football, American football, not the other kind. And I'm looking for kind of a footballish color. Ooh, let's use bronze. No, let's use Peru. That's a good brown. And let's put some stitches on this. So in Stitch Artist, we have lots of different stitches that we can apply. I could apply a fill stitch, which would be this one right here. In the stitch properties, this is where you're going to pick the stitches that you're going to use for this shape. You have lots of options. I'm looking at the size of it. It's still a little big, so we need to make it tinier because it's a tiny football. It's a half an inch wide there, I think. Let's go a tiny bit smaller. 7/16 of an inch. Let's try that. Now, it's 5/16 of an inch tall, and I could put a beautiful satin column stitch across that football. And I'll change my starts and stops so that satin stitch just goes shoop, 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 shoop. It fills the football. You know what? Let's play it and you can see what it does. It'll fill the football with stitches, and then it probably has some underlay because I didn't change any settings, or it maybe not. Nope, no underlay, just the satin stitches, and it's gonna just stitch those on so nicely, and you just have those stitches. That's all you have. It's 68 stitches, so tiny. um I'm not sure that that's enough stitches though, so I do feel like I need a few more stitches. I'm going back to create mode. And if I was going to leave it like this, I'm going to go over into the properties of my stitch. So I have my object window on top and then my stitch properties on the bottom. And these are my main stitch properties right here when I have this top stitch properties. It says to adjust the top stitch properties. When you just let your mouse hover, it will tell you what that's called and you don't have to make up names for it. The second one is adjust the underlay properties. We don't have any underlay. When you click the button, you can see we have absolutely no underlay. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of underlay in here, and I'm going to put a parallel underlay, and I'm going to show you what that does. So let's go back to our player. I've changed the properties, and so now I should have something else happening before those wide zigzags go. Ah, do you see those? I've got some new stitches there. And now I've got that loose zigzag, and then it's going to cover up with all those satin stitches. So it added what's called a parallel underlay there and gave those top stitches something to hang on to. You can actually see that the thread count, the stitch count of that object went up. It added a good 39 stitches. There were 68, now there's 107. So it was 39 stitches that it added underneath there just to give that little football some structure. It'll puff a little bit more with some underlay under it. What else could we do there? Okay, that's not a whole lot of stitches. We could probably add a few more. Another kind of underlay that we could add is an edge run. Now, I like to be careful with my edge runs and actually inset them just a little bit more, because your edge runs, if you're not careful, can actually stick out and show a little bit. It's like, when I'm trying to think of a good analogy. It's just like when you've got something sticking out that shouldn't be sticking out. And so that it can hang out, and you don't want it to be hanging out. So let me show you what the edge run looks like under here. You'll see it on the stitch player here. Can you see that extra? It drew a football shape, and now it's going to do those parallel lines across there. So the first stitch that it puts down that drawing of the outline stitch, that's the edge run underlay. And now here comes the parallel underlay, right? And now it's going to go back to the front to the starting area and it's going to fill it in with the satin top stitch, that satin column, which is just lovely. I really love those satin columns. They're really nice. With all that underlay under there, what's going to happen is that edge run, let's go back to the edge run again. That edge run is going to keep those satin stitches on the top from drawing in and squeezing, pulling tightly and kind of bending that the background that you've got it on. They're kind of like a its own stabilizer is what it is. And I use the inset to make that a little bit further on the inside than right at the edge. It's 7 points in, which points is less than a millimeter. So we could get super technical and we could talk about that little inset thing here, but I know from playing with it that I want it to be at least that far in. The bigger the number, the larger the so right there your inset is, the further away it is from the edge. I don't want it right on the edge. I know from experience that I don't want it right on the edge. I want it at least 7 points in. The density for this, I'm going to leave it as it is. That's fine for me, just based on the way I know that the software works. And I'm going to leave my stitch length for this right there. Again, this is not a very big object. It's got 124 stitches, and that's fine. It's going to be done in, I don't know, if your machine stitches 1,000 stitches a minute, you're going to be done in a tenth of a minute, so 6 seconds. No, is that right? Yeah. I mean, it's not going to take long at all to stitch that out. Um, but let's make it even look more like a football, right? Okay, so before we put it over on our Texas shape, I'm just showing you what you do. We could put some football looking stitches on it. Let's draw with points again. I'm going to grab that and I'm going to draw those football lines. So it's kind of like you could do it right down the middle or you could do it kind of an arch. Let's go, since this is so tiny, let's just go right across the middle. And this is not an exact science because this is art and you can do it however you want your football to look. If you want your line to curve up, you can grab the line between those 2 points and move it. The arch can be however you want it. It could be just a gentle curve. It can be a really extreme curve. I don't really know what the right way for footballs to look like is. It's kind of like this is the football of my head. And I know though that it has some laces, so let's draw those lines that are the laces. I'm going to draw one there. I'm going to draw another one there, but I'm remembering that this is teeny, teeny, tiny. So if I'm drawing a bunch of lines on this, that's a bunch of stitches. I'm going to change them to white though, because we can't see them if they're brown on brown, at least on my screen. So let me go back up to, I like to change it by number. And then because I have a certain white that I like silky white. That's my favorite, isocord white. I'm going to change it to that color. See, you can't even see it. I can kind of see it a little better. And now I've got those 3 stitches. They're just lines right now. They don't actually have any stitch properties added to them. Let's do that. And let's use these running stitches because they're really efficient. Now, the last time I was doing running stitches, I was using a back stitch that was 3 millimeters long. And it went over itself until it was a 5-pass back stitch. That's way too much for this. So I'm going to take that 5-pass thing off for sure. But I want to zoom in and I want to look at what's going to go on here. So let's get real close to this football and let's look at it. Now that doesn't look bad, but knowing what I know about the back stitch, I'm not sure that that is the best one to use for all of these pieces of these stitches. So, and I'm just talking, so I'll go back and if you have questions, I will catch them and I will answer them in detail in the comments in a minute. But like I said before, Facebook is not letting me see what is happening here. And for all I know at this moment, I'm talking to myself in here with the computer, which is odd, but my family's seen me do weirder things, so whatever. Okay, so but I want to make some decisions about the kind of stitches these are. I know that this guy is like a half an inch wide, right? So this selected piece right here, it's 5/16 of an inch. I don't really have a lot of time for it to go jump, jump, jump. Maybe that's 3 stitches. Maybe it's two all the way across. If these are 3 millimeters, and that's not a 1/4 inch long. Yeah, there's like 2.5 stitches here. So maybe the back stitch isn't the right one. If I use a different kind of stitch, though, like a bean stitch, I get a thinner stitch, but I'm going to go, the machine's going to go chunk, 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 chunk. It looks like it's actually going to do 4 stitches there at that 3 millimeter size. It's a little bit thinner. Can you see the difference in the kind of stitches? I don't want to change the color. I wanted to change the kind of stitches we had. So you can kind of get a little visual of what those thicker back stitches look like. So that looks more like a hand embroidery thing. I love back stitches for outlines, a lot better than I like bean stitches, actually. But for this, that bean stitch actually looks pretty good. Now, since I have Stitch Artist Level 3, I'm going to use a little, this is kind of like a little shortcut. Um, well, you know what? Let me show you one way you can do it. So, um, this football seam here, okay, these stitches, what's going to happen if you just turn your machine on and you have these stitches like this, your machine's going to do this stitch, then it's going to cut the thread, or it's not going to cut the thread. It depends on if you have a thread cutter. It'll stop, it'll go back here, and it'll start here and do this stitch. It'll stop and cut the thread, then it'll start here and do this stitch, then it'll stop and cut the thread, then it'll start here and do this stitch. And that's a lot of extra thread ties. Those thread tails are going to be on the back of your embroidery. You might even have some on the front. It's going to be kind of messy. So a quick way to deal with those thread tiles, if you've got Stitch Artist Level 3, is just select all those pieces of the football stitching and then click this little button that's called branching. That branching tool is so fun, and it makes quick work of this whole thing. And what it does is it kind of joins all these pieces. And let's watch the player and I'll show you how it branches them. So we've seen that happen 45 times. We don't need to see that again. But let's watch the stitches for the lacing stitch out. So we've got it going across. It's going to do a little bit of one in the middle. It's going to go back and catch that one, finish the rest of those stitching, and then as it hits the end of the football, it's going to do that last stitch and end right there. And it didn't have to stop and start and stop and start and stop and start 4 times. It did all of the stitching kind of at one time because we used the branching tool. Okay, that's a good football for me. Let's zoom out to normal size. I'm at 430% right now, so let's zoom back out to 100%. Look how tiny he is. That's still 130%. He's so tiny. Do you even need the stitches? I don't know if you want the stitches. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't even want stitches on there. Okay, so now he's at 115%. He's still tiny. Itty bitty. Let's take him. I'm going to do a Command C on my computer, or Control C if you have a PC. And I've got my Texas shape over here, and I'm going to do a Command V or a Control V. And I'm going to put the little football right on Texas. Whee! He's so cute. Look, he's just the right size. I think that's pretty cute. Texas football. I think yeah, I know they have a football team. We haven't been to one of their games. It's a crowd thing, and I don't do big crowds like that. So that's how you would add the football to it. So I've got Tennessee I'm working on over here. I could take the Tennessee shape, which this is still too tiny. He's so tiny. I don't know why he's so tiny. And let's make the body of Tennessee a little bit bigger. So I'm going to grab that and grab that. Like I said, I have just started working on Tennessee. I'll add him in there. But he needs some work. Obviously, he needs to be double diamond. Yeah, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I want to make sure everything's in the right place. Then my satin run needs to start here and end there. That way, oops, I didn't want to grab that. I wanted to grab the bow tie. And that's all there. I'm actually going to put a point there, open and then close it right there so that that line, that's where it was. That red dot jumped from there to there. So that's the right place. Anyway, and I could put that football. Let's grab him over here. Command C. Go here to the Tennessee one and Command V. Let's see if the football fits on Tennessee. Woohoo! He does. Tennessee football right there. You could take and you could, you know, make him diagonal or make him straight across. I don't know how y'all play football in Tennessee. I don't even know how you play football in Texas, honestly. Um, Whatever. I would change the background. Maybe you have a school in Tennessee that has the same color. In fact, I'm pretty sure you do. You have a school in Tennessee that has the same color of orange that we do. Yeah, look at that. So your football might want to be a little bit of a different color, but that's how you would do it. And so if you want to, you could draw a little football like this in your embroidery software, and then you could put it on whatever you wanted. While we're here, let me just show you how I did the heart. So if you wanted to do a heart, there's lots of different ways to do a heart. So let's get a new file. And I'm going to draw a little heart, like the heart that was originally on that Texas shape. Let me just show you what that is. Y'all are going to laugh. So that heart is not really a heart shape. There's lots of heart shapes in the library that you could use. And I had started there, but I decided that since it was so tiny, I wanted something that was a little bit more dramatic. And that's me, dramatic. And so my heart, I made two little swooshes like this, barely overlapping each other. And they're so cute. They're like little, I mean, I'm just drawing with points. Those are all curved nodes until I get to the very bottom. And I'm going to close that so that those joined will be one. I'm going to kind of stretch it out a little bit. Scooch those nodes. I got to zoom in so I can see what I'm doing here. Oh, there we go. And I've got one, like a comma, overlapping another one. That's two. I never closed that up. Let's close that up. We can delete that node. And now I have this. Ooh, that's a twisted node right there. Do you see how that line's going over that one? It's kind of a weird shape. That will not fill in. That's called a twisted node. And that is one of the digitizer's worst. I mean, if we had an enemy, it is a twisted node. That's for sure. That is a curved node, and it is not going to bend the way I need it. So I'm going to make it into a cusp node. And now I can affect that side of it. I'm going to make this one go up just a little bit because that is too... Let's turn that one back into a curved node. Okay, so that's all twisted right there, and I don't want that. So I'm going to make this right here. Let's do that. That's a lot better. And now I actually have a heart shape that's really these two little parts right here. This is teeny tiny again. I'm zoomed super far in. I'm going to turn those both into column satin stitches. And I need to do some little adjustments. So I need to change the angle of those column stitches. And I need to change the angle of these column stitches. I need to adjust my starts and stops so that between these two shapes, they're starting and stopping in a logical manner and not willy-nilly all over the place. So I want that one to start where the other one ended, and it can end down there. That's fine. I might want to adjust this out just a little bit so it has a little more volume down there. But it needs a little more. I need another angle right here. When I zoom out there, I have this cute little puffy heart. And that's the kind of heart that we deleted at the very beginning that I put on these state shapes. So that may be the heart that ends up on Tennessee, y'all. So if you, I don't know if I put a little underlay in it. I don't think I did. Oh, yeah, that's got an edge run. I don't want that for sure. The parallel underlay is plenty for me on this Remember, I don't want a whole lot of layers of stitching, and I want it to get done fast. So that has 118 stitches. It's a 1/4 inch tall, and that's perfect. Just perfect. So there you go. There's a little football. If you want to play with other ways to digitize it, you can. You could turn these little stitches into satin stitches if you wanted to, but look how chunky that is. That's too many stitches right there. Like you can't even see the columns as they go across the football. It's too much. So I would stick with a running stitch. I would not do a satin stitch on those. It's just too much. We don't need to work that hard. Now you could play with the kind of running stitches you have. You could do a back stitch if you wanted something a little chunkier. You could do you could do a double stitch. That's a little less bulkier than a bean stitch, but you know, it's not a lot of stitches. I mean, like the whole thing here. This is 45 stitches in that whole little piece of white thread. I don't even think that's 45 stitches. There's no way. 45 stitches? Yeah, okay, 45 stitches. All right. It's not a lot. So you don't have to do a whole lot of work here. It's just going to be bam, it'll be done. You see, I mean, it'll be done in no time at all. The whole thing is less than a minute of stitching, that's for sure. And then the whole state earring, just one earring by itself, that's 2,400 stitches. So if you now let's go back here to the Texas shape. So if you're working on the Texas shape, you've got one earring right here, and you're going to save this on your computer so that you can stitch it out. What you have here on the object windows, you have two separate designs. You have design number 1, the Texas earring, and then you have design number 2, which is the little football. In fact, let's give it a name. That was the little football. We copied and pasted from the other page, right? Okay, those are two separate designs though. And so when we save this to our USB or we save this somewhere else, we're saving two separate designs, not one design. And we want it to be one design because it's one thing. The software thinks we're still working on two different designs here. So if it's not it's not two designs. It's one design that we're trying to do, but it looks to the software like we've got two. So what we need to do in order to make this work is we need to combine the designs. So that means we go to create at the top, then we go to design, then we go to combine designs, and that's going to merge number 1 and 2 here to one object, one design in the object, one design with 6 object pieces. Okay, so we've got the state, we've got the football background, we've got the first run, and then we've got those 3 vertical stitches. Okay, now remember we branched those all, so they're actually not one thing, they're all together, but they are 4 separate objects functionally. But we need 2 earrings, right? So we don't want to do just one earring at a time, do all the threads, and then go backwards. We want to make 2 earrings at a time and save some time. And this is little bitty earrings. It's fine to do 2 at a time. I'm not going to do 10 at a time just because I've turned my back on my machines too many times and I know what they do when I do that. So I'm going to do 2 at a time at the most while I'm watching, and then maybe we'll get crazy and try to do something else. But I'm going to scoot it over here, and I've got this one right here, and I'm going to copy that whole object, all or that whole design, all of those pieces, and I'm using my copy and paste from the toolbars. You can use Control C or Command C on your computer or Mac, but I'm just going to hit copy, and then I'm going to click off of that. I'm going to hit paste, which is Control V or Command V, and I've got another instance of it, and now I've got the second one, and over here in the object window you can see now I have 2 designs, 2 instances of that Texas earring, 2 separate ones, and I need to go back again, select them all, and go back to my create menu and go to create, design, combine design, so that now they're one object, one design with all of those objects in there. Now, you can, if you're doing this from this step and you didn't start with your own digitized stuff all at the very beginning, you could use the color sort feature from Essentials and do edit, no, utility, color sort right there at the top, and it will sort it into a new design. Let me show you. That is going to have all of the oranges stitched together, all of the browns stitched together, and then all of the white or whatever colors you pick. I don't know what color your footballs are. I don't know what color your state is. Um, and so that's a way to color sort it. Or you could do this and you could save this design. So I would save it here. I would save my working file here, give it a new name, and I'm going to call this the Texas Football, whoops, can't even spell, Texas Football Mashup Earring, because we did something different than what I did before. Just call it something that you can remember, and I'm not going to put it there. I'm going to put it in my iCloud. I'm going to call it there, and now it's all these shapes. And what I do from my end of it, so if I'm starting all over with the Texas, I'm just going to take these colors and I'm going to scoot them all up together so that I've got all the brown stitching, one right after the other, then all of the Texas shape, then the football shape, then all the white shape. So now in my object window, I really only have 3 colors for the whole thing. And when it stitches out, it'll do this. And I didn't have to use the color sort button. So that's just me. You can use the color sort button. It's fine. And, there's nothing wrong with it. I like using it too. I just don't do it when I'm doing the digitizing. So I have more control when I don't do it like that. So there's my footballs. And then there's the little stitches, both of them all at the same time. And now what you need to do is you need to save this again. Save this working file as the Texas Mashup Football color sorted. Okay, so this one's sorted. So I'm going to add that to the title. Okay, and now I'm going to save the stitch file. So that was, depending on what machine I'm going to use, I'm going to save the stitch file so that I can pop that into my machine. And I'm generally going to save that to one of my USB devices to test it, not necessarily to the machine yet, but I would create a new folder and I would put it in there. I'm going to call this the Texas Football Mashup Earrings. I'm going to call it color sorted because it's sorted. Well, no, it's not. I manually sorted it, so I'm not going to call it that. I'm just going to call it the Texas Football Mashup Earrings and the .pes. That's what the design will be. And now it's ready to stitch. I put that on the USB, go stitch it out, and then I'll have some football earrings. Remember when you're putting football colors, so that football is kind of dark on that dark orange, so you want to make sure you've got good contrast. And so pick your threads carefully so that the footballs actually show up. And that's all I have to say about that. I think that's it. I'm going to go back over here and see if Facebook actually recorded it. And I will check to see if we have any questions. That's it. It says stop sharing. So I'm going to stop sharing and maybe that'll end the video. So hope that was helpful. You can see all the other crazy things I've been doing today. It's been a lot. Okay. I'll talk to y'all soon. And let me know if that